Following scene is from the movie Margin Call. I'll play it and then I'll narrate what I want you to see.
Fuck you.
What you just saw, so that you can comprehend what I'm trying to put across here, is the movie Margin Call, where one of the head analysts for risk assessment, along with about 40% of the investors on the floor of this particular firm, were kicked out of that firm because they got themselves sideways and their investments went south, hedge funds being what they are, and that's what happened. And in the private sector, you saw that man angrily toss his phone because he had just been given the word that he was no longer in employment. He had 24 hours to sign an agreement for 6 months severance and his health care for 6 months until Cobra would then take over. Now, that's the private sector, see? 24 years in a firm, they decide to let you go. 24 years, 6 months severance, out the door you go. They took and turned his cell phone off, and that's why he threw the phone down in anger. That's what happens in the private sector. And that guy, like any one of us in the private sector, pay these government rats like Comey and McCabe and Clap-on Clapper so that they have womb-to-the-tomb health care, fat-ass pensions that we don't get, and all the privileges of the Praetorians or the members of the Politburo, so that they can turn around and predate, spy on us, like the fat cops that chase you down the road for your seatbelt violation, so they could pad their cop overtime in court and have $100,000 pensions because your property and school tax in New York at $20,000 a year ain't enough. They're going to start injecting your neck with a beer tap for your carotid arteries so they'll just suck the blood out of you. That's what these government rats all have become. And it's partly our fault, not mine, but many people who refer to cops as heroes and first responders, everything but what they are, cops. So they have this entitled, inflated sense of self with a recalcitrant IQ and a diminished sense of ambition, like this rat bastard. Look at this. Look at this face. Is that a face you just want to slap the shit out of? Here's another face. Oh, would I love to slap her? Oh my God, would I have fun slapping the two of them? Okay? This is what we've created. Look at this little weasel, Poindexter. Yeah, can I bring you another apple, Miss Johnson? And is the library still open? Hey, FBI agents at their best. Glorified accountants. Look at this rat bastard. They just keep coming. Sally Yates. There she is. Queen Nefertiti. Susan Rice Krispies. Look at her. Worth about $30-40 million. And there he is, Dr. Strangelove, the general discrepancy here. Hayden, look at this wimp. There he is, Ling Chow, the AKA Bruce Orr, the guy who never met Strzok and Page and all the other people, and now we're finding all the emails are coming out. Rat bastards, all of them. And they got the keys to our lives, these disingenuous, crooked little, just absolute rats. That's what they are. They're just rat bastards, as we used to say. And they're looking at you, and they're listening to your phone calls. There he is, Mr. Potato Head. There he is. All right, Mr. Potato Head, the altar boy, Mr. Comey. There they are. Look at this great-looking group. Look at Strzok out, clap on, right? These are the winners that control the inner sanctum of our government. Do you think we're in trouble? to come up with a crew of no-getters like that. And, they know what losers they are, and they all got rich from Fusion and the Hillary Clinton Foundation. I mean, they made millions of dollars off of this. And so when you hear these things, we're not going to let Trump win. They're not worried about him being president. They're worried about him stopping their gravy train. And that's why Page was so upset and brutalized and sounded terrorized at the prospect of Trump winning, because they weren't going to make the easy, fat money anymore. So they weren't so much worried about destroying Trump as they were about seeing that Hillary got elected. So their gravy train would never end. And then once they had to go to plan B, oh my God, the loser lost. Now what do? Well, we'll stop it. See? Because we're not going to lose all these millions of dollars coming over the spillway. Look at Strzok. He raised over $400,000 in 2 days on a GoFundMe page. Are you kidding me? We've got veterans that lost legs and arms that went GoFundMe, and they can't raise $10,000. And that rat bastard, $400,000 in 1 day, 2 days. Where do you think that money's coming from, people? So you better understand that these rats were killing our country. And, it's a sad thing that we came up with the word deep state, all these wonderful euphemisms. When Sean here, Hannity, who's a cop sycophant, it's not the rank and file. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The fish stinks from the head back. But if I was an FBI agent, I'd have shot one of these guys. I'm telling you right now, I would have put a gun to one of their heads and said, listen, you son of a bitch, you're not going to disgrace my country. You're not going to, destroy the electorate on my watch. I've had bosses by the neck. And I'm going to tell you, there's nothing funnier. And by the way, more satisfying. When someone says, you can't talk to me that way, I'm your boss. And then you put them in a chokehold and ask them to repeat that. I'm your boss. And inevitably, I remind them, somehow I don't believe them at that point. You see? And I know that sounds terribly Neanderthal, but it's worked for me. It's worked for me. And I helped them out because, when you almost choke the life out of a scumbag, you could set them onto the road to Damascus. You see, like all these priests that want to touch and rape young children. Are you seeing how? Where are you there, Father Dolan, the Cardinal of New York? Where are you? I don't hear your fat mouth going on about borders and knocking my president lately. Oh, you know why? You're too worried about the borders you purged. The border between your corrupt priest's fingers and the posterior anatomy of young children called altar boys. You think maybe you're going to respect that border one day? By the way, Count Chocula, your pope, is hiding behind a 52-foot wall in his own little country called Vatican City, surrounded by Swiss guards with medieval poleaxes, and he rides around in a bomb-proof Pope-mobile. Isn't that funny? I think that's funny. Because that's what Jesus did. Jesus said in Aramaic, make sure my chariot is bomb-proof, right? Isn't that what Jesus did? And didn't Jesus dress up like Liberace? Oh, no, he didn't. He wore a simple white tunic. He was humble. Unlike the Pope, who dresses like Liberace. You'll know my true church by thy people's works.